Hello and welcome to my wrap-up video. If you haven't seen this before, I usually try to do this within a vlog type of thing. So I'm recording the messages right after I read the book. If you're not interested in a book, so I'm starting to talk about a book and you already know this isn't for you, happens a lot to me, to be honest, then you can pretty easily skip by looking into the background or the situation changing, and then I will be talking about a new book. Have fun with my thoughts about the books that I read recently. I just finished Because You Love to Hate Me, and I do have to admit I did kind of rush the last couple of pages. This was not for me, even though I love what this was intended to do. I loved the prompts, I loved the idea, I love reading about villains, I love seeing the villain side of the story, so I was really looking forward to this, but I'm just not into short stories. And I think this was just the downfall of it all. There were really nice ideas. Some ideas I didn't care for, some of the prompts just didn't resonate with what I wanted to read. I really did love the story. I did love a few, but I didn't like all the prompts in here. So, and my issue with short stories often just is that as soon as I know the characters, as soon as I'm really in the story, it's over and I'm thrown into the next story. So I think I just don't like the format. I probably would have liked 2 or 3 of these prompts in a novel length. And I mean, the writing is good. So I'm not complaining about the writing. It's the wrong format for me. So unfortunately, this is only getting 3 out of 5 stars because it just cannot get into the depth that I need from a story. And especially like a villain origin story or something. I need more depth to that story than you can achieve on like a short story amount of words. Skyward was one of the books that I was really looking forward to read. I've heard so much about the author, Brandon Sanderson, and I have not read anything by him yet. So I just finished Skyward, and it might become my favorite book of the year. So this book was one book in a very long time that had me laughing out loud a lot, and at the same time I actually cried a couple of times, and I believe at least twice I must have yelled, "What? No!" We're following Spencer, this young girl who has lost her father in a battle. Humankind has been driven to near extinction, and they're now living in caves. And only recently, they have started building this base on the surface again. They have one cave where they can build some ships, and they're defending against these aliens that are attacking in like irregular intervals. And Spencer has lost her dad in one of these battles, and he has been marked as a coward fleeing the battle. And this has really been a tough thing for Spencer, who does not want anything but flying herself. But everything is being denied to her because, well, due to what her father did. She tries to somehow fulfill her dream nonetheless. And at one point, I believe this is also written in the synopsis, she actually does find a ship, and this ship has an AI that is, I don't want to say realistic, but this AI seems to be a little bit alive. Brandon Sanderson has described this book as a Tame the Dragon meets Ender's Game / Top Gun. And oh my god, I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it. I loved Ender's Game, and I can see a person having this relationship with a ship, and I'm just really I was really excited to see where Brandon Sanderson is going to take this one. So I hope this sums it up in a good way. Yeah, I just loved it. The main character Spencer in the beginning, to me, wasn't very likable because she was pretty much just a brat. But as I could understand her motivation and how she got to be a brat, it didn't matter to me as much. So I believe that we can follow a really nice character development, and that is like way more important than liking a character in the beginning, even if it's the main character. I understood her motivation, so it was fine. I loved pretty much all the characters. All the characters made sense to me. I loved the world building. This world is just so beautiful, and well, it's not beautiful, but the world building was beautiful. I just understood it in a way. I don't know. There were a few times during the book where I was like, okay, I'm starting to know where this is going. I'm starting to know and already know how it's going to end. But boy, I was wrong. I did see a few things coming, but like the main thing, I knew it was possibly going into a direction like that, but I didn't see that coming. And the book had the right amount of suspense the whole time. It had the right amount of everything. So, I don't know. I have not felt this engaged and just wanting to continue to read on in a very, very long time. I might even compare it like not like from the whole story, but from my personal experience to how I felt reading Harry Potter for the first time. It was just a very special being engaged, and even though I don't like the main characters, same with Harry Potter, by the way, kind of rooting for them and rooting for them to develop into a more likable person. I loved the relationships between the people. I loved that there was not like an overshadowing romance like what we have a lot in YA, which I cannot stand, when we just have like too much forced romance. The character development made sense for everybody, and that ship, that robot, oh my gosh, I love that character. In the end, he did get a little bit annoying, but oh my gosh, I loved this character. He made me laugh so much. Yeah, I don't know. I am just in love with this book. I want this to be like a really, really long series, and I want more. I just want more of like this. I just love it. This might become my favorite book of the year. I have to digest it a little. I'm a little bit emotional right now because I just finished it. I have to digest it a little because for me, my favorite big book of the year consists of like probably mainly two things. One is how I objectively think the book is doing, and I found it really good. I can see how some parts might not make some people like the book. And then the other part is just my experience. Like, I didn't know I was reading. I was in this world. I was laughing and crying and yelling, and I was like a complete mess throughout this book. And this doesn't happen very often for me. So this might be why this might become my favorite book of the year. Objectively, it's possibly not the best I've read this year, but for some reason I was just in it and I just loved it. So I don't know, please let me know Have you read Skyward yet? Are you planning on reading it? And let me know your thoughts. So, yeah, yeah. I just finished City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I hope you can hear me with the traffic going. I listened to it on audiobook while driving, so I just stopped to quickly give my thoughts. So overall, I really did enjoy it. I feel like Victoria Schwab was able to give us this amazing atmospheric book that is perfect for like the fall time. It's a little bit like scary, ghosty, and I just loved the whole setting and the idea. I do believe that I would have liked a little bit more depths in the characters. I feel like the characters were all lovable, and I did like where every character was going, but for me they were just lacking a little bit of complexity. Even for like a middle grade book, I feel like the characters should have a little bit more of a character than just a few like traits. I want a little bit more depth in my story as well. I love the setting, but I think they could have done a little bit more. Like the villain in the story could have been a little bit more complex or something. It was just very, very, very straightforward and easy, and yeah. I don't read a lot of middle grade books, so this could be the reason for it. But I feel like even middle grade books can have this complexity and this like plot twists and being surprised, etc. Also, even though I do love the whole Harry Potter universe, and I do consider myself a Slytherin, and I am totally on board with like everything, I feel like we could have done with a little bit less references. But then again, I am way far away from the target group, and I don't know if this is typical for kids nowadays. I don't know. So overall, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was a quick and easy read, and I would totally recommend it to anybody who is a little bit into the paranormal, who likes ghosts, and anybody of the show like Ghost Whisperer. It's more of a fun middle grade version of the Ghost Whisperer for me. Then I read Notes from My Captivity by Kathy Parks. I actually have filmed my new format reading this. It's a format where I combine a travel vlog and reading reaction vlog kind of thing. And you can hear a lot more thoughts about the book, hopefully. I haven't edited it yet, so I don't know how it turns out and if it works at all. But overall, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't really what I expected. I did like the style. I liked that it was witty, and I liked the character development. But overall, I was missing a little bit of mystery. I was missing a little bit of thriller, and a little bit of like angst, and overall it felt too smooth almost. And then I just didn't care for the ending. It went into magical realism, which most of the time isn't my thing, and in this specific case I felt it was just way unnecessary, and it just kind of killed the whole mood for me. And then like the other part of the ending that wasn't magical realism felt completely rushed, and it felt constructed, and it just felt like the author wrote herself into a corner and couldn't get out of it. So that's like, then she rushed it in the last 10-20 pages, I think, to a weird place. That's what I didn't like about it. Other than that, I did enjoy it. I don't know who to recommend this to, because I believe if you are in the mood for a captivity hostage book, you are expecting more darkness, you are expecting more angst and more like a thrilling situation, and I don't believe that you're getting it with this one. I don't know who to recommend this to, but it was a fun read, so it wasn't all bad. I finished The Most Dangerous Place on Earth. This is a book that plays in a more like privileged, very white high school, and the problems these young people deal with. I felt like it was quite hard to get into it because there's a lot of different perspectives that we're following. And I am the type of person, I need to get into the world rather quickly. And it was done interestingly. So like every chapter was focusing on another person. But for like half the book, every chapter was a new person that hasn't really been introduced to me yet. And the circles kind of varied. And by the second half, there were like a lot of additional characters coming in and just like side characters. And it was so tough for me to keep track of it all. And then it felt like by the last third, like there were a lot of additional topics that were put in. And I was like, well, do you need to put that in as well? Is this necessary to have another problem and another issue and another topic that we're touching right now? It was just becoming a little bit too much. Other than that, I did like the idea. I liked how it was set up, and I liked how the perspectives showed like the different views of what is like transpiring. What I didn't like either is that in one chapter, particularly one perspective, the author started to, her tone and her vocabulary started to be very like a lot of curse words, a lot of like street language, and it felt true for the character, but it felt like she didn't do like an own voice writing style with the other characters, and this was like the only one where it was very extreme, and it kind of bothered me at this point. Overall, it was an okay book. I do understand how it can appeal to some. I didn't like Perks of Being a Wallflower either that much as others like praise this book, and I think this could be similar. Like, it's touching quite similar topics in a very, very different way. So it has a very similar kind of feel to it, and I just wasn't down for it that much. But it's not a bad book because it's not my like go-to thing. So yeah. And then I finished Orange. Orange actually was not on my TBR for this month, but I found it in the library, and I always wanted to pick up a manga, and I have seen this on quite a lot of shelves, and I just wanted to check it out, and I enjoyed it so much. Following this girl who is receiving letters from the future, from her future self, trying to mend what was happening, and she's like giving her, you could say, instructions on like what to do so she doesn't have as many regrets in the future. It's really, really fun. And an additional fun thing, I don't know how it is in the English version, I had, because I was in a local library, I was reading it in German, and the translation from the Japanese to German was just hilarious at times, because a lot of the translations just didn't work. In like, you knew what the author wanted to say, but it felt so rough and weird. So I don't know if the English translation is better. I would really be interested if you think the English translation doesn't have that. But here, like on every other page, there was at least one, like something that somebody said that was like, what? No, that's weird, and that's grammatically wrong, or that doesn't make sense, but I know what you want to say. So yeah, I did still enjoy it. It's a fabulous story. I totally want to get the next one. So the next time I'm at the library, I'm going to pick up as much of these as they have in a consecutive order. And I can wait to finish this story up. So I am done. Overall, I think I enjoyed the book throughout reading it a lot more than like the last 40 pages. I don't know, but the last 40 pages, the climax of the book kind of happened, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It started to feel a little bit confusing. It started to feel a little bit that we are trying to find a way to get where the author wants to get. I see that oftentimes, that I feel like
a few pages, some things just don't make sense, or they are rushed, or like we have a slow paced everything in here. Like not slow paced, so slow paced that it's just the right amount of pacing. So it's not like rushed. Everything builds slowly but interestingly, and then like the climax hits, and there's a few things that just happen that are happening so fast that they don't make sense and they feel forced, so that the author gets to the where she wants to get. No big twists or things, surprises in the end. I was hoping for a little bit more there, simply because I had so many smaller things throughout the book where I was like, oh, really? Okay. And that kind of built up my hope that there was like this bigger, oh, what moment, and it didn't come. It wasn't promised, so I still kind of wanted it. And it kind of left me hanging in a way. It felt rushed, it felt confusing, and it still left me wanting something more. I'm really excited to see how this is continuing. Overall, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it a lot, and I will enjoy the sequel probably just as much, because most of it was just so much fun reading, and I loved the world, I loved the magic system, so I'm excited to see where it goes. And there's potential for this to go like really, really amazing, but there's also potential to really go down the drain. So let's hope the next one is really, really good as well.
I finished the graphic novel Endzeit. It's by a German author, and it's a German graphic novel. I found it in my local library, and it just appealed to me somehow, and it did say that like it won some prizes. And overall, I loved this. So the art in here is truly beautiful. Trying to show you a couple of pages. This is about a girl who is living in a post-apocalyptic world, and she it's like a zombie-infested world, and she is haunted by her being the reason for her sister dying. And this plays in a German city, and this city is connected to another German city by an like automated train. And this girl at some point finds herself on that train with another person who wants to get to the other city, which isn't allowed. And for some reason this train stops, and then they have to make their way across the country. And I love how they detail the zombies, a very innovative way of like a few zombies, like where stuff is growing out of them, like you can see here like some leaves and stuff. Overall, beautiful art. The story is really, really nice, and I enjoyed it so much. If you know German and you can find this, pick it up. It is a definite recommendation. It's such a nice graphic novel. And I'm not that much into graphic novels usually, but it looks like I might be getting into them, and I might be getting into mangas, because I got like a lot of mangas from my library, and let's see if I read more this month.
I finished Eliza and Her Monsters, and I adore this book. I don't know why, because this does have a romancy part, and it did tend to annoy me a little, but it didn't annoy me much to take away from the story. And I was flying through this book so like quickly. It doesn't happen often that I just look at the page count and I'm like, whoa, I thought I was like 10-20 pages less than that, and that just helped go through the romancy parts. I found the two protagonists to be awkward enough to be relatable, and lovable and weird enough to talk about them at the same time. We're following Eliza, who is this creator of a webcomic that is really, really famous, and she is hiding her identity. And then this boy comes to her school who's a fan of this webcomic, and well, they get to know each other, and yeah, You know the gist. You know where this is going. So this is not nothing surprising is happening there really. What surprised me are the characters, are the is the this teen anxiety, the backstory, and how these characters interacted, how deep their conversations went without talking too much, like too in very few sentences they were saying a lot at times, and I just loved how this touched being on the line between a normal teenager and being having normal teenage problems, and of that feeling of, okay, is this how it's supposed to be? So this was touching for me. This was just touching a lot of other things. I think this is a book where a lot of introverts who were going to high school, doing their own thing, feeling misunderstood by their parents and by all the other kids in school, they probably feel really at home with this. And there was just so much around this story to love. It felt very real, even though having created a webcomic that has millions of subscribers doesn't feel too relatable for me, because it feels like a dream. But it's just, it is in some way. So this was just, on so many levels, I just enjoyed it so much. And if you like a fluffy contemporary with some heavier topics that are never touched too heavily and always in a way that it still feels a little fluffy, this might be for you. I just finished The Darkest Star by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It is basically about this world where aliens live with us. They came to invade us a couple of years ago, and they live with us, and we're following this girl who is at some point all of a sudden becoming just entangled with them. And this is basically an alien YA romance kind of thing. I give this a 3 out of 5 stars because I did love the overall plot line. I like the alien thing, and I like some of the twists and turns that that the story made. What I didn't like is that most of the story was told through info dumps. I think there were overall 4 or 5 parts where I felt like info was dumped on me. And I felt like the writing style was kind of like, it wasn't for me. It was very like a teenager would speak. It was written, which might make sense because it's being told out of the first person, and it might appeal to some people. To me, it was just annoying because I don't want the spoken language to be the written language. It just, yeah, when they're when it's direct speech, I'm totally fine with it, but in the written language, the narrator, it's weird to me, and this made me feel like I'm reading a book the whole time, and this is just not what I want. And then finally, this is mainly a romance, and I do not understand some of the decisions the guy is doing, like this decisions he's making on how to treat and how to interact with the girl, especially in the beginning. There's a lot of points where I'm like, this doesn't make sense. There's like, the motivation behind this decision doesn't make sense. It's small decisions, but it just doesn't make sense. And it feels like these decisions are solely made out of like the mind of a, like, it feels like like little girl fantasy. So not happy about it. Not happy about it at all. Oh, yeah, and a lot of the plot twists were very, very foreseeable. So a lot of things that happened at the end, you just knew that they were gonna happen, because they were just, the build-up was very, very
clear that this would happen, and that just felt to me unnecessary in a way and annoying. But somebody like maybe this is a book where the target audience actually is 13, 14, and not a 30 something year old YA reader. I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. I do see that some people will love this book, because the overall plotline is great. If you like the language and you don't mind that the plot is foreseeable, this could be a really, really good book for you.
I just finished Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. I enjoyed this book so much more than I thought I would. First of all, this is following this girl, Caledonia Styx, who has lost her family and is now seeking revenge, and has built an all-girls crew together with her best friend, and they're now seemingly pirates. So, and there we already get to one point that was not what I was expecting. So what I was expecting is a female pirate crew seeking revenge and going out and like being pirates and showing sisterhood. And the blurb also talked about this boy coming in and him either being a reason for Cal to find her brother again, or to stir everything up, or and be like this bad thing happening. I was afraid of romance happening, and first off, I am not disappointed, because the sort of romance it wasn't overshadowing anything. There wasn't like a forced romance, so there was romance in it. So that was good. The sisterhood in this book, amazing. I loved following all these girls, and you really, it wasn't shoved in your face the whole time about like them having a great sisterhood. You could feel it. It was told in a way that you just felt it. The world building was really nice, although I am somebody who gets into, like, I have a hard time getting into books, like into a new world setting. So for me, the world building is always a little bit tough. And with this one, that was especially true. I'm usually not reading a lot of like books that play on ships, and there was a lot of lingo where I wasn't sure, is this like now a ship lingo, or is this like this world? And I didn't expect this world to have so many like technical features. It was quite interesting to read about some of the technical things, and they were talking about like things like how they were in the old world, and it sounds like the old world could be something we're living in right now. And this is placed in a world where they have some really cool technical features, but overall it does seem kind of medieval setting, or like historic setting in a way. So it's a weird mixture, but it's nice and it's fitting, and I just was surprised by it. So far that's all I loved a lot. What I did not like as much is that the characters, we were introduced to quite a few characters. We weren't introduced to the whole crew, luckily, because I mean, nobody could keep track of like over 50 characters in the first book. But the characters that we were introduced to, besides Cal, felt a little flat for me. They didn't have like a really deep characteristics or whatever. It felt like all they were is pretty much their function on the ship, and that's like what they were described as, and that's like all I understood about these people. I'm hoping to hear more about these characters and like how their like characters, like their personalities develop and everything, possibly in the next book. I'm really hoping for that. The main character, Cal, developed beautifully. were able to listen to her struggling with guilt. She felt guilty about being the reason that her family died and everything. We followed her growing up. We followed her trying to find a way to survive and to make safe decisions for her crew. Overall, I loved this book a lot. It had the action that we would expect from a pirate book, except I wouldn't call it pirates. They were rebels. If I'm reading pirates, I want like morally gray characters and fighting like the authorities. Here the authorities were like the evil ones, which is totally okay, and this is totally what I love when something is written from like the villain's perspective, but there was nothing villainous about these girls. So it didn't feel like pirates, it felt like rebels. They were trying to rebel against this like monster of a... It's not an emperor, it's like he's like pretty much running the show. He's called the father or whatever. But yeah, they were rebels, not pirates. So that I found misleading. And what I also found misleading is that the role that the boy who comes on board plays, it does have some points to, like, he's pushing some decisions and he's the reason for something's happening, but it's not a major plot line like I would expect after the blurb. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I cannot wait for the next book. I have to look up when the next book is coming out because I want to get my hands on it right now. I mean, if you've read this book and you don't feel like you want the next one immediately, I don't know what you're doing. Overall, I can really recommend this. I'm usually not a person reading like pirate stories or these kind of things. I'm usually more of a fantasy girl, sometimes sci-fi and sometimes like contemporaries, but this totally hit like a sweet spot that I just loved so much, and I can totally recommend this book. Pick it up. You might read this in one sitting because it's so action-packed and it just flies. Like, big thumbs up. I like it. I did give it 4.5 out of 5 stars because I do feel like I need more from the characters, and I'm really hoping to get that from the second book, and then I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a 5-star. So I believe this is it for the wrap up. I think I'm going to cut it right here, and I will possibly, depending on how many books I read, I will do another wrap up at the end of December. This is again, I believe, for 2 months roughly. So yeah, I didn't read as much as I wanted to because I was traveling so much, but I was able to film a lot of travel vlogs, and I'm trying to like do this new format where I combine my travel weeks with a reading vlog, and yeah, these will probably take a little bit longer to edit, but I will see how quickly these can get done, and I'm really excited to see how they will turn out. Yeah, watch out for these coming up, hopefully by the end of this year. I have so much work. Let me know what you think of these, and before you leave, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up if you liked how I do my wrap up, how I discuss my books. Let me know your feedback. I'm really interested in anything you have to say, and anything that could make this a better experience for you. All right, until then, bye.